Breath isn't a life function, it's a control interface, and someone decided you would never learn how to use it. Right now, you're scattered, reactive, pulled in 17 directions by forces you didn't choose. You're processing the world through a nervous system that's been running on default settings your entire life. Ancient initiates knew something different. They encoded sovereignty itself inside the exhale. The full code is inside this video. Stay with it. There is a pattern running underneath civilization. It has been running since before the first dynasty of Egypt, before the Vedic seers sat down to record what they knew, before the mystery schools of Greece sealed their deepest teachings behind initiation rites that could take years to complete. Once you see this pattern, you genuinely cannot unsee it. It rewires the lens. The pattern is this. Breath is the suppressed operating system of human consciousness. Not a metaphor, an actual mechanism, precise, reproducible, and deliberately kept beneath the threshold of ordinary education. Every tradition that produced genuine inner transformation encoded it. The Vedic rishis built an entire science around it and called it pranayama. The Tibetan masters wove it into tummo practice, using breath to generate inner heat and alter the body's baseline state. The Hermetic mystery schools of Alexandria taught controlled breathing as preparation for the highest initiatory experiences, the ones they never wrote down in plain language. Different cultures, different centuries, different cosmologies, identical ratios, identical outcomes. And here is the question worth sitting with. If this was simply a wellness technique, why did institutions consistently prefer you breathe unconsciously? Why is controlled breath the one physiological practice that has been quietly removed from every mainstream curriculum, while everything else about the body gets studied, catalogued, and taught? Because passive breathing produces a passive nervous system, and a passive nervous system produces a passive person. Someone who processes reality as it is handed to them, rather than someone who reorganizes reality from the inside out. There is a mechanism coming later in this essay, specifically the pineal activation sequence, that is going to make everything I just said land at a completely different depth. I need you to stay with me through this entire build, because this is not a collection of separate ideas, it is a single structure. Each layer only reveals its full meaning when the layer beneath it is already in place. So let's lay the first layer down properly. Because the code itself is older and stranger than any single tradition has admitted. The first layer is the code itself, the actual numerical architecture that the ancients embedded inside their breath practices. Pranayama is the Sanskrit word most people have encountered. It gets translated as breath control, breath extension, sometimes simply as breathing exercises. That translation flattens something extraordinary into something ordinary. The word itself breaks down as prana, the vital animating force, and ayama, meaning extension or expansion. So the full meaning is closer to expansion of vital force, not breath control. Vital force expansion, that distinction is not poetic. It is technical. The Vedic texts that codified pranayama, texts like the Hatha Yoga Pradipika and the Shiva Samhita, did not describe free-form breathing. They described ratios, specific counted cycles of inhale, retention, and exhale that were understood to function like a dial on human consciousness. The most foundational ratio was 4 counts in, 16 counts held, 8 counts out. That is a 1:4:2 ratio. And here is where it gets undeniable. The mystery schools of ancient Greece and Egypt were working with the same ratios. The Pythagorean initiates, who understood that number was not just mathematics, but the actual structure of reality, encoded identical breath ratios into their inner practices. The Eleusinian mysteries, which initiated thousands of Athenian citizens over nearly 2,000 years, used controlled breath as preparation for the peak experience of the rite. Scholars have debated for centuries what exactly happened inside the telesterion, the initiation hall at Eleusis. But the physiological preparation was documented. Fasting, specific movement, and deliberate, counted breath. Now ask yourself the obvious question. How do two civilizations on opposite ends of the known world, separated by thousands of miles and hundreds of years, arrive at the same numerical ratios for altering consciousness through breath? The answer is that they didn't arrive at them independently. They inherited them from a source older than either tradition, a source that understood the human nervous system not as biology to be explained, but as an instrument to be played. James Nestor, in his rigorously documented work on the science of breath, makes a point that lands like a quiet detonation. He writes that our ancestors breathed differently from us, with full nasal architecture, with rhythm, with what he calls the lost art of breathing. But what Nestor's research points toward, and what the ancient traditions make explicit, is that this wasn't simply a matter of better posture or cleaner air. The full architecture of ancient breath practice included retention, deliberate, extended, counted breath retention. And that retention is where the mechanism lives. Here is the decode. Inhale, hold, exhale is not a sequence, it is a dial. The inhale activates sympathetic arousal, alertness, readiness, expansion. The retention suspends the nervous system at a precise threshold, a kind of physiological pause between states. The exhale activates parasympathetic recovery, integration, coherence, rest. When you run that sequence with intention, at specific ratios, you are not relaxing. You are manually cycling your autonomic nervous system between states and training it to hold a new baseline. The yogic tradition is explicit about this. Breath retention, what they called kumbhaka, was understood to permanently shift the autonomic baseline over time, not temporarily calm you, permanently restructure the floor from which your nervous system operates. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika states that through regular practice of kumbhaka, the prana is brought under control and the mind follows. The mind follows. That is not a metaphor about feeling calmer. That is a claim about the sequence of causation. Breath first, mind second, reality third. And this is where the concrete civilizational example becomes impossible to ignore. Every culture that produced sustained periods of inner development, the Vedic period, the axial age of Greece, the Renaissance Hermetic revival, had breath practice at the center of its initiatory curriculum. Not at the periphery, at the center. The moment those practices were removed from public transmission and locked inside specialist traditions or declared superstition, the culture's relationship to inner sovereignty collapsed. People became externally driven, reactive, scattered, which is exactly the state you recognized in yourself at the beginning of this. The code is older than Vedic India. It is older than Egypt. It is older than any single civilization that has encoded it, which means no single civilization owns it, and no institution can fully suppress it. It is written into the architecture of your own nervous system right now, waiting to be read. But here's what the traditions themselves, even the most advanced ones, rarely said out loud. The breath ratio is not the deepest layer of the mechanism. The counted cycle is the entry point. What it actually activates inside the brain is something that modern neuroscience has only recently begun to map, and what it maps is stranger and more precise than even the ancient texts suggested. That deeper layer is where we're going next. So let's name this layer precisely, because this is where the ancient code stops being philosophy and starts being neuroscience. When you breathe in a structured, rhythmic pattern, something happens inside your brain that most people never experience in a lifetime of ordinary breathing. The neural fields begin to synchronize, not metaphorically, literally. The electrical activity across different regions of the brain starts oscillating at the same frequency. And when that happens, you stop being a fragmented collection of competing mental voices.
Before we continue, some of what I've learned simply never makes it onto YouTube. That's why we have Insights Academy, a free newsletter where I go deeper into hidden knowledge, ancient wisdom, metaphysics, and the nature of consciousness. The knowledge we don't share in these videos. And when you sign up, you'll receive the Kabbalion as a welcome gift. You'll find it through the link in the description below or by scanning the QR code on your screen. I'll give you a moment to do that.
And you become something else entirely. You become coherent. The Mexican neuroscientist Jacobo Grinberg spent decades mapping this. He called it the synergic field. His research showed that structured breath, specifically patterned inhalation, retention, and release, induces measurable coherence in the brain's electromagnetic field. The brain stops broadcasting noise and starts broadcasting signal. That is not a metaphor. That is a documented neurological state that most of the modern world has never been trained to access. Joe Dispenza has built an entire body of work on top of this same foundation. His research into open monitoring meditation, combined with specific breathing protocols, demonstrates that the fragmented compartments of the brain, the analytical, the emotional, the somatic, begin to unify under coherent breath. The walls between those rooms come down, and what you're left with is a whole brain. A brain operating as a single, integrated instrument, rather than a committee arguing with itself. Now here's the question you should be asking. What does a coherent brain actually receive that a fragmented brain cannot? The answer is non-local information. And this is where it gets precise. During the breath hold, the specific phase where carbon dioxide and oxygen are in oscillating balance, the pineal gland activates. This isn't speculation. The pineal gland is densely packed with magnetite crystals and photoreceptive cells. It responds to electromagnetic fluctuation, and the CO2, oxygen oscillation created during a sustained hold, creates exactly that kind of internal electromagnetic shift. The ancients called this the third eye. Modern researchers call it the brain's primary transducer for non-local field information. Different language, same mechanism. Think about what the mystery schools of Egypt were actually doing in those underground chambers. The initiates weren't meditating casually. They were placed in sealed stone sarcophagi, in total darkness, and guided through extended breath-hold protocols that lasted hours. The sensory deprivation combined with structured breathing created precisely the neurological conditions Grinberg later mapped in a laboratory. The coherent brain, the activated pineal, the opened receiver. This wasn't ritual for ritual's sake. This was a technology for inducing a specific neurological state, a state in which the initiate could access information fields that the ordinary waking mind cannot touch. And here is the decode move, the one that reframes everything you thought you knew about why these practices were guarded. A fragmented brain is predictable. It loops, it reacts. It stays inside the boundaries of what it already knows. A coherent brain is something else entirely. It becomes a receiver for patterns, solutions, and information that exist outside the personal history of the individual. The ancient priests weren't protecting sacred secrets out of ego. They were protecting access to a technology that, in the wrong hands, or more accurately in the hands of someone who had not done the inner work to achieve coherence, would simply not function. The technology required the prepared vessel. You are preparing the vessel right now, just by understanding this. But here's what the neuroscience stops short of saying out loud, and what the traditions have always known. Coherence is not just a brain state. Coherence is the condition that reality itself reorganizes around. That layer is where we're going next. Name this layer carefully, because this one is the pivot point of everything. The quantum field doesn't respond to your desires. It doesn't respond to your affirmations. It doesn't respond to your intentions, stated in words. The field reads your internal state, the actual electromagnetic signature of your nervous system. And it mirrors that signature back into the physical world with extraordinary precision. This is not mysticism dressed up in scientific language. This is the observer effect, documented since the double-slit experiment, extended into the work of researchers like William Tiller at Stanford, who demonstrated that focused human intention measurably alters the physical properties of water and electronic systems. The field is not separate from the observer. The field governs the particle, not the other way around. And the observer's coherence is the variable that determines what the field produces. So what does this mean for you, practically, right now? It means your internal state is the signal, not your words, not your vision board, your actual, measurable, electromagnetic state. When that state is fragmented, the field reads fragmentation and returns more fragmentation. More of the same loops, more of the same walls, more evidence that nothing changes. When that state is coherent, the field reads coherence and reorganizes around it. Doors open that weren't there before. Solutions appear. Synchronicities stack. Not because the universe is rewarding you, because coherence is the frequency at which reality's deeper organizational patterns become visible and accessible. The ancient Vedic tradition encoded this in the concept of ritam, the cosmic order underlying apparent chaos. The rishis taught that the coherent mind doesn't create ritam, it aligns with ritam. It tunes to the frequency that was always there, beneath the noise. The Egyptians called it ma'at, not morality as the modern world understands it. Ma'at was the principle of cosmic coherence, the aligned order that the coherent human being participates in directly. The pharaoh's primary ritual function was to maintain ma'at, to be the coherent node through which cosmic order flowed into the civilization. That wasn't political theater. That was a literal description of the mechanism. A coherent human being is a coherent node in the field, and the field reorganizes around coherent nodes. Now here is the decode move that makes this practical. Stillness plus breath equals the observer effect made deliberate. That is the equation. Not passive stillness, not random breathing. Structured breath, the counted cycle, the hold, the release, performed in a state of open, non-grasping awareness. That combination produces the coherent electromagnetic state that the field reads as signal rather than noise. You are not asking the field for something. You are becoming the frequency that the field organizes around. The daily practice is 5 minutes. That's all it takes to shift your baseline state. 4 counts in, hold for 4, release for 4, hold for 4. Repeat for 5 minutes in genuine, open awareness. Not thinking about your to-do list, not visualizing outcomes, simply present in the cycle. Do this before you check your phone. Before the world writes its signal onto you, you write your signal first. And what you'll notice, not immediately but within days, is that the texture of your day begins to change. Not because you manifested something, because you changed the signal you were broadcasting, and the field responded accordingly. There's a reason the ancient codes were practiced at dawn, before the noise of the world entered the system, before the fragmentation of ordinary social reality had a chance to override the coherent state. The dawn practice wasn't devotional habit. It was strategic signal management. And now you know that, which means you can use it. What you haven't fully landed yet, though, is the most radical implication of everything we've just mapped. You were never a passive receiver of reality's signals. That framing was always backwards. The truth is something that changes everything about how you move through the world. And that's exactly where we're going. Here is the sovereignty payoff. The one this entire sequence has been building toward. You stop being a victim of circumstances the moment you understand that you were never receiving reality. You were transmitting it. Your coherent breath is not a response to the world. It is the code that instructs the world. 5 minutes every morning. That is the practice. That is the upgrade. Permanent, portable, and free. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your experience in the comments below. What shifts when you actually run this practice? Your observations add layers to this work that I genuinely cannot generate alone. This is a collective decoding, and your voice belongs in it. What comes next in this curriculum is the geometry beneath the breath. Sacred geometry, pineal activation, and the structural mathematics that the ancient builders encoded into stone. That is the next initiation. The breath was always the origin code. You were always the transmitter. Now you know it. Leave a comment below. Your practice adds to the field we're building together. And if this curriculum is yours to walk, subscribe. The next initiation is already waiting.